looking around the world of what's going on, the weather changes, the war, and everything else, as much as what I go through in my life, this morning I thought I won't be surprised that if I'm surprised in future sometime. And then I thought that is an interesting sentence. There is I who will not be surprised that I will be surprised. So the first I indicate there's something telling me that I can evaluate whether I'm surprised or not. And the fact that if I can say that I won't be surprised means that that core of that I may indicate that, for example, the notion of impermanence, everything changes. And if we know that everything changes, we won't be surprised. Only if there's no me. Because me is the culmination, if you call it, of various experiences. Typically, when we talk about me or myself, but beyond that, there is another me seeing that that's who I am. That is a culmination of all the karma, experiences, and the memories. And that me, which is like a bigger me, or true self, if you want to call it, can see that I won't be surprised, that I'll be surprised. If I maintain that first me, the big me, of course, at the time when I'm surprised, I may not be surprised. So it's kind of like two identities, and I mentioned two universes, the me, mind universe, and bigger me, representing the law of nature. I think that's the point that I'm coming back to when I said or thought the idea that I won't be surprised that I'll be surprised. How things are going in the world and how things are going in my life, there's lots of turbulences, yet I am working or getting into the root of who I am to point that perhaps there's a way to transcend that me, the small me. And in Buddhist word, that's no self. So who is that no self? Of course, there's no identity, but the way I say it, some may call it as God or the laws of nature, how things happen. And we are the phenomena of how things are happening, except that we have the eyes to see how things are happening and the impact of it in terms of the surprise, turmoil, ups and downs, or because of the down, you may have ups, like a joy. And that is the phenomena, like a screen, a display that is playing the movie. Yet there's another big me looking at it, undisturbed, sort of, or may feel compassionate by looking at the ups and downs and the joy and despair, whatever happens, and feel what can be done with it. I think that's the notion of God or Amida Buddha. I was talking about the Myokonin, that they can relate to that Amida Buddha or the infinite power and wisdom, or the wisdom and compassion at the end, that they are saved by Amida Buddha, which is basically, let's call it the law of nature, that we are floating on the water up and down, but it is the example I mentioned about me and the palm of Buddha in some other YouTube video, that we may be playing this and that up and down, but still we are on the palm or of the Buddha or ocean versus the particle, the waves, the phenomena on surface. So when I say I won't be surprised that if I'm surprised, I think that is also pointing that notion of big me versus small me. Then the question is, can I maintain that big me, small me, or two universes, the paradox of me in two identity, depending upon the situation, but maintain the calm, quiet stance, clarity of that construct. So I won't be surprised. But when time hit and things happen, I may be surprised. But since I know I may be surprised, but I won't be surprised that I will be surprised, maybe I'm much better prepared or balanced so that I don't lose the core, the foundation of who I am, the true self. And you can call that Amida Buddha is, or the God is, the savior, that me, small me, individual, get lost, is taken care by the palm of the Buddha, the God, or Amida Buddha, whatever you may call it, or the law of nature, because we are manifestation of that law of nature, of what is happening. That's my existence. That's what I talked about elsewhere. That I'm a miracle of being here, and I'm aware of it. That itself, to me, is profound, or the touching the core of being. Things change, but there's something which doesn't move. I think I quoted one of the poems, so to speak, pointing that the shadow of the branches may move, but the dust on the floor doesn't move. So if we know that me, big me, or mind, and the law of nature relationship, and not lose it, to me that's awareness. Whether you call it coming from the Zen perspective or Shin Buddhism or Myokonin perspective, I feel that would come to the same point of savior, if you call that, or awareness, the being state of the universe, flowing with the riding the wave of the universe, that we realize that we are the universe, but also a particle floating on top of it. It may sound paradoxical, but I think that's the eye of Eckhart I was talking someplace else, that you can see the God and God seeing me. That's the relationship. Paradoxical relationship, understanding, and finding the insight, wisdom, and compassion to go with it. Now, it may be easy to say whatever words that I use, and even perhaps trying to convince myself so that I'm prepared for the surprise to come, which can happen any minute, any second. And the house may be on fire, and the financial situation or the market may collapse, and the war may start. Lots of unknowns. And we can be disturbed, and we do our best so that it doesn't happen. But at the same time, we can be prepared in such an event of impermanence hitting. I was watching this Webb telescope, and I was watching, hundreds of people working together for 15 years, 20 years to make sure that the whole thing happened. And any little thing can happen, can cause the whole $10 billion project to be out of whack. You lose it. So everybody worked so hard. And I think they're making it. I saw this Nova video yesterday or the day before. It was so profound. And how can we do it? There's that possibility, but also there's all the possibility of failing. So it's just a, how do you call it? Very delicate balance of the waves we are riding to make some headway or approaches so that we can satisfy our curiosity to explore, expand, and then at the same time be prepared all the casualties that can happen. I was involved in the safety analysis of Fukushima. This is 1970s. And compared to web case, that's the other case that I was involved in some of the testing of my emergency core cooling system, predicting the hydrogen explosion and all of that, which I heard, 30 years later or something, that happened. So on one case was Fukushima, on the other case is Webb telescope. And what we are discovering, it's just fascinating. But I think we appreciate and be prepared so that we might be surprised when something happens. Yet that doesn't stop us to explore with curiosity and expanding our space, time, possibilities. So that's the delicate balance, the perspective that we want to keep without losing the curiosity, adventurous spirit, but being able to take care of the climate changes, the war in Ukraine. The Ukraine war is happening. I feel so sad about it. But then this morning I saw people surfing in Queens in Hawaii. How can it happen? War and the surfing. But that's what it is. The reality is that you do things whatever you can given the situation, and there's limitation of what you can, but we can expand and connect to that so that we don't suffer, but help each other and find a passage, each of us, and nations, society, and all of that. There's a surprise that I hope we find a way to go over and maintain the good balance to find a way into the future, doing the best we can. Thank you.